Every major battle in Naruto. This series has no shortage of incredible, enormous battles, so today we're going to take a look at every single one of them. Welcome to the Amagi. In today's video, we're going to be going over every major battle in Naruto. Before we begin, we publish a new video every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. Attention Naruto fans! Before we begin today's video, we want to present this epic elite fandom statue by Figurama Collectors, which features Naruto's showdown against the great Akatsuki leader, Pain. This polystone statue stands tall in a 1/6 scale and comes with two swappable torsos for Naruto in his Sage mode and his normal Konoha ninja gear, and with two swappable portraits for Pain. We appreciate the attention to detail as the statue also features powerful allies, such as the two great Sage Toads Fukusaku and Shima, and Katsuyu. Fukusaku even has Jiraiya's secret code carved into his back. The statue base features the crumbled remnants of the Predapath Pain, which is made out of woodblock style clouds, meant to resemble the shape of the Akatsuki cloud symbol, which gives this high-end quality statue even more dynamic. If you don't want to miss out on this epic collectible, make sure to get it in time since these fandom elite statues sell out very fast. Sometimes they don't even make it to the first hour until they're sold out. You can use our code to get a special discount. Pre-order begins October 30th at 11 PM Japanese Standard Time. You can also join the wish list to get notified for pre-orders on time. If you want more information, you can head over to their website. Alright, let's get back to the video. First Shinobi World War. The First Shinobi World War, or simply the Shinobi World War, was the first major conflict to occur among the 5 great shinobi countries. The war's outbreak plunged the world into chaos not seen since the end of the Warring States period, for which reason there are very few records about the war. According to Onoki, the war was a result of countries and their hidden villages taking resources from other countries and other hidden villages. Madara Uchiha's demand that Iwagakure be subservient to Konohagakure is implied to be the first example of this. In the lead up to the war, Konoha's first Hokage, Hashirama Senju, distributed the tailed beasts to the other hidden villages, something that was discussed and agreed upon at the first ever Kage summit. Hashirama and his fellow Kage hoped that dividing the tailed beasts amongst their villages would create a power balance, thus establishing peace between them. Although this did bring end to smaller wars, conflicts of the era began to escalate, and Hashirama ultimately died in battle. His successor as Hokage, Tobirama Senju, attempted to continue Hashirama's pursuit of peace, but even his efforts could not stop the beginning of the First Shinobi World War. Tobirama would go on to die during the war, killed in battle with Kumogakure's Kinkaku force. He acted as a decoy so that his subordinates could escape. Before he died, Tobirama appointed one of his students, Hiruzen Sarutobi, to be the next Hokage. The war took a heavy toll on the 5 great shinobi countries, badly damaging each of them. In the end, an armistice treaty was signed, establishing 20 years of peace between them. The peace was ended by the start of the Second Shinobi World War. Combat tactics developed during the war would have the most lasting impact, with experiences from the war still shaping how ninja do battle in the modern era. After the war, Konoha established the memorial stone, upon which it engraved the names of all ninja to die in the village's service. Second Shinobi World War. The First Shinobi World War ended with an armistice treaty, but also left the 5 great shinobi countries seriously wounded. The treaty led to a period of peace, but after about 20 years, the economic disparity between the countries became a serious problem. The nations began to form factions, and under the pretext of expanding fair rights, the countries started using military force to expand their territories. Thus, a world war started. As with all wars, the Second Shinobi World War brought forth many heroes and took even more lives. It was during this time that the legendary Sannin rose to fame and received their nickname from Hanzo during a skirmish with Amagakure. Tsunade in particular became famous as the world's greatest medical nin while successfully countering all of Chiyo's poisons. Her ideas and skills revolutionized shinobi squads to include medical nin she trained personally, increasing mission success and survival rates, a system that remains in place in the present. She is thus cited as having made great contributions to Konoha's victory as well as the current system of all medical nin. It is also likely that this war is where Sakumo Hatake made his name as the Konoha's White Fang. On the other side, it was the war where Tsunade lost her lover, Don Kato, leaving her with an extreme case of hemophobia. It was also during this war that Sasori's parents died, an event that eventually made him leave the village and join Akatsuki. At the same time, Chiyo swore vengeance against Sakumo for killing Sasori's parents. It is also likely that it was during this war that Sakumo Hatake would fail a mission vital to Konoha's war effort. Subsequently, he was ostracized and ultimately committed suicide, an action that would shape his son's character for years. The Ame orphans lost their parents during this war, leading Jiraiya to take care of them for a while, claiming it was the least he could do. One of the orphans, Nagato, would come to desire an end to war because of his experiences from this war, a purpose he used Akatsuki for. Third Shinobi World War. The Third Shinobi World War was the third of the 4 Shinobi Wars that involved the majority of the Shinobi villages. It took place more than 10 years prior to the beginning of the series. Because of a decline in national power, the reign of the 5 great Shinobi countries was crumbling. Along their borders, skirmishes with smaller nations broke out all the time. The prolonged conflicts gradually spread their flames far and wide, until at last it developed into an all-out war. This conflict turned into an unprecedented war of attrition, tormenting all nations with a shortage of war potential. Not even excluding a great power like Konoha, very young children, some of whom were barely out of the academy, were thrown onto the battlefield, eventually losing their young lives during the war. Konoha Gakure and Iwagakure fought across Kusagakure after the latter had infiltrated it in order to lay siege to the border of the Land of Fire. It was not until the destruction of the Kanabi Bridge that the war began turning in Konoha's favor. Iwagakure was also known to have been fighting Kumogakure with various skirmishes between the two villages. Tsunagakure also participated in the war. Kumogakure was also seemingly a part of this war, with at least Konohagakure clashing with shinobi from this village, specifically Minato and Ei. This is also the war in which the 3rd Raikage died and the 4th Raikage was appointed. Kirigakure also partook in the war against Konohagakure and made Rin no Hara into the Jinchuriki of the Three Tails. Rin chose to die by Kakashi's hands rather than be used as a tool to destroy her own village. The Kiri shinobi were adamant in retrieving Rin's body and not allowing it to fall into enemy hands. Rin achieved this by letting herself be stabbed by Kakashi's Chidori, which not only stopped the Three Tails from being released but also resulted in Rin's death. Grief-stricken Obito Uchiha, who unbeknownst to his teammates had survived and was a witness to Rin's murder, massacred the Kiri shinobi by himself, despite their best attempts. Sometime after this, Madara Uchiha would pass away, but not before passing his plans on to Obito to fulfill until the time of his resurrection. Ao from Kirigakure also defeated a member of the Hyuga clan and took the member's Byakugan for his own right eye socket. The Battle of Kikyō Pass took place in this war. The war that swallowed up shinobi from every land came to an end after an armistice agreement between Konoha and Iwagakure, which were the principal aggressors of the war, was concluded. In Konoha, although the war had been proceeding favorably for the village, the 3rd Hokage established a policy of reconciliation to bring an end to the fighting with an unprecedented offer to not seek reparations from Iwa. Advocates for the war opposed Hiruzen's seemingly weak decision, and to keep dissatisfaction in the village in check, he decided to step down as Hokage. The Konoha shinobi that received the most attention for their war efforts in the village were the Sannin, and the surviving members of Team Minato. Out of the two teams, Minato, who was the key factor in the war that gained the moniker of Konoha's Yellow Flash alongside Orochimaru, were the only two candidates village officials put forward to succeed Hiruzen. Ultimately, it was Minato who became the 4th Hokage. Between Fugaku Uchiha not receiving praise for his work during the war, alongside his name not being put forth to become Hokage, members of the Uchiha clan came to despise the village officials. Itachi Uchiha was traumatized by the violence of the war and grew to seek peace at any cost because of it. An experience that would lead to the Uchiha clan downfall and prevent his clan triggering the 4th Shinobi World War. However, Obito Uchiha, who had been saved from death by Madara Uchiha during the war, eventually caused the next World War, after witnessing Rin no Hara die and taking on his savior's identity. In Tsunagakure, Sasori earned fame as Sasori of the Red Sand, due to his ingenious puppets dyeing the sand red with his enemy's blood. In Kirigakure, Ao gained a Byakugan from a Hyuga clan member he killed during the war, which in turn led to him being known as Byakugan Killer. In Konoha, Kakashi Hatake eventually gained fame throughout the shinobi world as Copy Ninja Kakashi, after he gained a Sharingan from a dying Obito during their mission to destroy the Kanabi Bridge. In Iwagakure, the Jinchuriki of the Five Tails, Han, became known worldwide for his prowess with steam ninjutsu. In Amegakure, Yahiko, Nagato, Konin, and many other shinobi formed a group that eventually fought the rule of Hanzo. Initially, they were merely preaching for peace for Amegakure. They were supported and even invited to negotiate peace by Hanzo himself. After Danzo used his men's corpses to frame Akatsuki of murdering the village's shinobi, Hanzo came to fear that they were power-hungry and would usurp his power. He betrayed them and called for the assistance of Danzo and his root Anbu while holding Konin hostage. The confrontation between the two sides led to Yahiko committing suicide, choosing to do so as Yahiko did not want Nagato living with the memory of killing Yahiko. Left devastated by Yahiko's death, Nagato responded by summoning the demonic statue of the Outer Path, which subsequently slaughtered all of the Amegakure and root shinobi who had been instructed to kill Nagato. Nagato also attempted to kill Hanzo, who fled. This incident failed to suppress the group and led to a civil war, with Nagato becoming the new leader of Akatsuki. The resulting civil war split Amagakure and ultimately resulted in a complete and utter annihilation of Hanzo's faction, with Hanzo himself eventually dying at the hands of Pain. Battle of Kikyō Pass. The Battle of Kikyō Pass was a battle between Konoha Shinobi and an unknown group. The battle took place at the end of the Third Shinobi World War. In the aftermath of the battle, it is said that a captain of the medic corps, Nonoyakushi, found a single survivor from amongst the dead enemies, a young Kabuto, and taught him basic medical ninjutsu. However, this story was actually fabricated by Orochimaru. The battle was first mentioned by Anko Mitarashi before the preliminaries of the third exam in the Chunin exams, just after Kabuto announced that he would not battle. The Nine-Tailed Demon Fox's attack. The recently appointed Hokage, Minato Namikaze, was married to Kushina Uzumaki, the Jinchuriki of the Nine Tails. When Kushina became pregnant and the birth of their son drew near, special precautions had to be taken due to the fact that the seal keeping the Nine Tails within her would weaken during childbirth, thus carrying the risk it might escape. News of Kushina's pregnancy was kept a secret from the general population, and the delivery itself would take place in a remote cave away from the village. Minato's predecessor, Hiruzen Sarutobi, organized security. The site would be protected by a barrier, several Anbu would guard the area, and another Anbu, Taji, and Hiruzen's wife, Biwako, would be midwives. Minato, meanwhile, would monitor the seal, keeping it stable during the delivery and restoring it to its original strength as soon as their son was born. Despite all the secrecy, news of Kushina's pregnancy was discovered by Tobi, who overheard it from Kakashi Hatake, Minato's student, when he spoke to Rin Nohara's grave at the Konoha cemetery. Tobi located where the birth was taking place, infiltrated the barrier, killed the Anbu stationed outside, and arrived inside the cave mere moments after the child, Naruto, was born. Tobi killed the midwives and took Naruto hostage, threatening to kill him if Minato attempted to restore the Nine-Tails seal. Minato was able to take Naruto back, only to discover explosive tags planted on him. Minato was forced to teleport away with the Flying Thunder God technique to keep Naruto safe, leaving Kushina behind with Tobi. Tobi moved Kushina to a new location and placed her under restraint while he took steps to further weaken the seal. As the seal was about to break, he used his Sharingan to enter Kushina's subconscious and place the Nine-Tails under his control. The Nine-Tails was extracted, a process that Kushina survived due to her Uzumaki heritage. Tobi attempted to have the Nine-Tails kill her, but Minato tracked them down in time to save her and escaped to a safe house where he left Naruto. Unconcerned by them, Tobi led the Nine-Tails back to the village. Even before the Nine-Tails arrived in the village, some sensed its approach. The young Itachi Uchiha felt something ominous, and his infant brother Sasuke began to cry. Kakashi detected a change in the air as he spoke with Might Guy, though he did not know the cause. Hiruzen sensed the Nine-Tails while he worked in his office. Aghast by the implication, Tobi snuck into the village and summoned the Nine-Tails to his location, using it to launch an immediate attack. An Anbu reported the Nine-Tails' appearance to Hiruzen, who had already changed into his combat uniform to lead the village's defense. Minato teleported to the Hokage Rock to lend his assistance. The Nine-Tails immediately noticed his presence and attacked with a tailed beast ball, which he sent away with his Flying Thunder God guiding Thunder, a contribution noticed by the Ino Shikacho formation as they headed into battle. Minato attempted to locate Hiruzen so that he could tell him what happened, but was stopped by Tobi. Tobi started to teleport Minato away, but Minato used his own teleportation to escape. Tobi followed. From Tobi's actions, Minato speculated that Tobi was in fact Madara Uchiha, who had decades earlier tried to use the Nine-Tails to destroy Konoha. Tobi didn't deny Minato's claim, but he did allude to having some purpose behind the attack. Minato and Tobi clashed, with Minato after some difficulty finally managing to strike Tobi with a Rasengan. During his attack, Minato was able to brand Tobi with the Flying Thunder God formula, allowing him to teleport to Tobi's location whenever he wanted. He immediately tried to strike again, this time to place a contract seal on Tobi that removed the Nine-Tails from his control. Injured and deprived of his best weapon, Tobi fled, vowing that it was only a temporary setback. In Konoha, many of the village's children had been taken away from the village and confined behind a barrier so they would not be killed trying to protect the village. Others weren't so fortunate. Iruka Umino's parents, Kohari and Ikaku, died protecting him from the Nine-Tails' attacks. In the anime, Itachi ran through the village with Sasuke in his arms, trying to find their own parents. In the Itachi Shinden Book of Bright Light novel, Izumi Uchiha's father died during the attack, resulting in the young girl awakening her Sharingan. The Nine-Tails attack also destroyed the academy amongst other buildings. Once freed from Tobi's control, the Nine-Tails tried to retreat from the village. It was pursued by Konoha's forces led by Hiruzen, prompting it to retaliate with another tailed beast ball. Minato returned to the village in time to stop it by summoning Gamabunta above it, having Gamabunta keep the Ninetales restrained while he gathered the chakra to teleport it away. Minato took the Ninetales to the safe house where he'd left Kushina and Naruto, it being the furthest away from the village that he could get. Kushina restrained it and cut off access to the area with her adamantine sealing chains, while she and Minato decided what to do with it. Already dying from her earlier ordeal, Kushina offered to have the Ninetales sealed back into her once again so that it would die with her. Believing the Ninetales' power would be needed in the future to face Tobi, Minato rejected this idea, deciding instead to seal the Ninetales into Naruto using the 8 trigram seal. Because the Ninetales was too powerful to contain within the body of an infant, Minato used the dead demon consuming seal to cut its chakra in half, leaving only its yang chakra. When it realized what they were planning, the Ninetales tried to kill Naruto, forcing Minato and Kushina to use their own bodies to shield him. While Kushina had some final words for Naruto, Minato gave the key to the seal he was about to use to Gerutora, and then sent him to Jiraiya. Hiruzen followed Minato to their location, but could not break through Kushina's barrier. Minato didn't have the time necessary to tell Hiruzen what had happened, choosing instead to make a request of Konoha's villagers via Hiruzen, to regard Naruto as a hero for helping save the village, and not to hate him for containing the monster that had killed so many. With that, Minato sealed the Ninetales into Naruto, adding his and Kushina's chakra to the seal so that they could watch him grow up and someday help him gain control of the Ninetales. Nine-tailed Demon Fox's attack, Aftermath. Hiruzen brought Naruto back to Konoha. With Minato and Kushina dead, Hiruzen decided it would be best if no one knew of Naruto's relation to Minato so that Minato's old enemies wouldn't come after him. To that end, he gave Naruto Kushina's family name. Hokage once again, Hiruzen shared Minato's final request with the survivors. Although some, predominantly those who personally knew Minato, were willing to follow his instructions, most were not, since they were incapable of setting aside their grief and bitterness in the wake of the death and destruction of the attack. Hoping that future generations wouldn't hate Naruto in the same way that their parents did, Hiruzen forbade anyone from discussing the Ninetales. This largely failed, as those in Naruto's age group only copied their parents' hate, though they didn't understand why. Naruto, already an orphan, grew up lonely. Because Minato was never able to explain what had happened, Konoha's villagers were left to come up with their own explanations for the Ninetales' attack. The Ninetales had historically attacked human settlements, drawn to large concentrations of humanity's dark nature. Accordingly, many assumed it was just a natural occurrence that nobody was responsible for. Konoha's leadership, however, believed an Uchiha was responsible, because of the Sharingan's famed ability to control the Ninetales. In the anime, the Uchiha avoided direct engagement with the Ninetales on the orders of Danzo Shimura. The Uchiha, having helped create Konoha decades earlier, were offended by this mistrust, setting in motion the events that would lead to the Uchiha clan downfall. Jiraiya, as Minato's former teacher, believed that there was more to the events of that night. He, like Minato, suspected Madara Uchiha's involvement, despite how old Madara would have had to be at the time. He also felt that Minato's decision to seal the Ninetales into his own son was significant, assuming he intended for Naruto to someday gain control of the Ninetales' power for some purpose Jiraiya couldn't guess. As such, Jiraiya took on Naruto as a disciple once he was old enough, training him to take advantage of the Ninetales' chakra and using the key Minato sent him to accelerate the process. Tobi, the threat that Minato wanted Naruto to be prepared for, would ever have to deny any involvement in the attack, insisting it was the natural outcome of Konoha's years of benefiting off the misfortunes of others. Uchiha clan downfall. Following the Nine-Tailed Demon Fox's attack, Konoha Gakurai's leadership began to suspect that the Uchiha were behind the attack due to the Sharingan's ability to control the beast. From that point onwards, the Uchiha were placed under close surveillance, something Tobi claims was accomplished by forcing all Uchiha to live in one section of the village. This mistrust and isolation from the rest of the village created feelings of ill will amongst the Uchiha, and ultimately rekindled the hatred harbored towards the Senju-influenced government. As such, the Uchiha, led by Fugaku Uchiha, began planning a coup d'etat to overthrow the Konoha leadership. In preparation for the coup, the Uchiha started inserting its members within Konoha's command structure to act as its spies. Itachi was placed in the Anbu, the direct arm of the Hokage. However, Itachi did not agree with the Uchiha's plans, believing the coup would only escalate into another Shinobi World War. As such, he turned double agent, providing Konoha with information on the Uchiha's plans. The third Hokage, who did not agree with the treatment of the Uchiha following the Nine-Tailed Fox incident, tried to find a peaceful resolution with the clan. Danzo Shimura, however, did not believe negotiations would solve anything, and felt eliminating all the Uchiha would cause the least bloodshed. The Uchiha noticed Itachi's strange behavior and tasked Shisui Uchiha with keeping an eye on him. Shisui, a close friend of Itachi, shared his opposition to the coup. When peace talks started to break down, Shisui attempted to use his Mangekyo Sharingan's Konoha Tsukami to force the Uchiha's leaders to change their mind. Danzo felt this was a waste of Konoha Tsukami's rare usage, as it could only be used once every 10 years, and took Shisui's right eye for himself before Shisui had a chance to use it. Having failed and fearful that Danzo would take his other eye too, Shisui entrusted his left eye to Itachi before committing suicide. After finding his body, the Uchiha believed Shisui, whom they had sent to spy on Itachi, had been murdered by Itachi, and that he had staged Shisui's suicide and as such no longer trusted him. Although he still wanted to find a non-violent solution, Shisui's death convinced Itachi that events could no longer be stopped. He became outwardly critical of the clan's actions and hostile towards individual members. Danzo, aware of Itachi's conflicted feelings, explained the two possible outcomes. The Uchiha could be allowed to attempt their coup, an act that would ultimately lead to the entire clan's extermination, including Itachi and his younger brother, Sasuke. Alternatively, Itachi could assassinate all the Uchiha before the coup took place, and in exchange would be allowed to spare Sasuke's life. Itachi opted to save his brother. Before carrying out the massacre, Itachi found Tobi sneaking around the village. Believing he was the real Madara Uchiha bent on destroying Konoha, Itachi offered to help him take revenge against the Uchiha for betraying him decades earlier if he would spare the village, which Tobi agreed to. Tobi, under the guise of Madara, also met with Danzo around the same time for unknown purposes. In a single night, Itachi and Tobi slaughtered the entire Uchiha clan. Itachi expected Fugaku to be the greatest enemy, and entered his home with great caution. To his complete surprise, both his parents were willing to accept death rather than fight their son. Both respected his decision to side with the village over the clan, and asked only that he look after Sasuke. He tearfully killed them just before Sasuke returned home from the academy. Although he knew his actions were necessary, Itachi could not forgive himself for killing his own family and believed he had to be punished. Sasuke, a child and thus ignorant of the Uchiha's conspiracies, was the only person qualified to pass judgment on Itachi that he felt he deserved. As such, Itachi attacked Sasuke when he entered their house, desperate to make Sasuke believe he had killed their clan without provocation and for selfish pursuits of power. He used Tsukiyomi to torment Sasuke with images of the clan's murder and claimed Sasuke was too weak to even bother killing. Itachi encouraged Sasuke to embrace hatred and vengeance in order to get stronger, and to come after him and kill him to avenge their family. As Itachi left, Sasuke made an immediate attempt to follow Itachi's instructions. Awakening his Sharingan for the first time, Sasuke pursued Itachi and attacked him, managing to knock off his forehead protector. Itachi wept from Sasuke's action, but continued on after collecting his forehead protector. Sasuke passed out from the traumas of the night and would not remember this moment of retaliation for many years. Uchiha clan downfall, aftermath. Only 3 Uchiha survived the clan's massacre: Itachi, Sasuke, and Tobi, though most of the world, Sasuke included, did not know of Tobi's involvement in the massacre or survival. Itachi reported the mission's success to the 3rd Hokage. The 3rd, having been unaware of Itachi's assignment from Danzo, regretted to hear the news. With nothing to be done about it now, the 3rd promised to perpetuate the cover story that Itachi had acted alone and without cause, so that no one would learn of the Uchiha's plans, and also so that Konoha would not be tarnished for its involvement. Most important to Itachi, the 3rd vowed to keep Sasuke safe from Danzo. In the anime, the 3rd also ordered the dissolution of Danzo's root and his removal from the council as punishment for acting without his permission. Itachi then left the village, joining the organization Akatsuki, in order to reinforce his image as a criminal. In actuality, he monitored Akatsuki from the inside, keeping Konoha informed of its actions and preventing the organization from moving against the village. Itachi also threatened to reveal all of Konoha's confidential information to foreign forces should Danzo bring harm to Sasuke. True to Itachi's intentions, the Uchiha's massacre had an immense impact on Sasuke. Sasuke's sole motivation over the following years was to become strong enough to kill Itachi. First by training as a shinobi of Konoha, and later, after being dissatisfied by his slow growth, defecting to Orochimaru. Under Orochimaru, Sasuke gained enough power to finally pose a threat to Itachi, culminating in Itachi's death when they finally met in battle. Sasuke enjoyed a brief moment of believing he had avenged his family at last, but was shortly afterwards approached by Tobi and informed of the truth behind Itachi's actions. After realizing that Itachi only ever acted in the interests of his village, Sasuke decided to destroy Konoha for what they did to his brother. However, after reconciling with a reincarnated Itachi, Sasuke decided that this would be contradictory to what Itachi sacrificed his life for, and that he would instead protect the village. The truth behind the massacre was successfully kept a secret for many years, though Kabuto Yakashi, an experienced spy, was able to uncover it at some point. After Itachi's death, however, Tobi no longer felt obligated to keep up the cover story, and shared the truth when he deemed it convenient. He first revealed the truth to Sasuke in order to win his cooperation, and later to Naruto, Uzumaki, Kakashi Hatake, and Yamato in order to defend Sasuke's actions. Furthermore, Sasuke's former Taka teammates and Orochimaru were also made aware of the truth during the 4th Shinobi World War. Killer Bee and a reincarnated Nagato also learned the truth when Naruto asked the reincarnated Itachi about it. Years later, Sakura Haruno and Sarada Uchiha learned the complete truth from Sasuke himself. Upon his reincarnation and learning that the truth had been revealed, Itachi insisted that those who knew did not publicize it so that the Uchiha clan could retain some honor. At some point following the 4th Shinobi World War, Naruto revealed to the world that Itachi was responsible behind the reincarnated shinobi to have been returned to the afterlife during the war, thereby ultimately assisting the allied shinobi forces in emerging victorious in the war. Although Naruto continued to keep Itachi's true mission and goals of the massacre a secret to honor his promise to Itachi. The Hyuga Affair. The Hyuga Affair, as the incident is known nowadays in Kumogakure, happened 9 years prior to the start of the series, while Kumogakure and Konoha were at war. In an attempt to put an end to the fighting, they agreed to a peace treaty to be signed on the date which coincided with Hinata Hyuga's 3rd birthday. The treaty was soon revealed to be nothing more than a cover when the person who was the head ninja of Kumogakure at the time, who was in Konoha to sign the treaty, attempted to kidnap Hinata in order to obtain the Byakugan and its secrets. The shinobi was killed during his attempt by Hinata's father, Hiyashi Hyuga. The urgency of the situation led to every Konoha Anbu being dispatched out of the village on a single mission, leading to the village's key ninja being on standby in case of fighting breaking out. Kumogakure denied all accusations of the kidnapping and demanded the body of Hiyashi as compensation for their death of their head ninja as per the stipulations of the treaty. Hisashi Hyuga decided to go in his brother's place as they were twins and Kumogakure would not be able to tell the difference. This had another advantage. Besides saving the life of the head of the clan, Hisashi's cursed seal would seal his Byakugan upon his death, safeguarding his secrets. Despite Hiyashi's protest and their father's behest, Hisashi chose on his own to do this, not only for the clan and village, but for his brother. The details surrounding Hisashi's death are quite well known among the high-ranking ninja of Konoha, most of them taking it as a serious infraction on Kumogakure's part. This was shown when Yamato called out the 4th Raikage for his relentless pursuit of Sasuke Uchiha, comparing the latter's supposed abduction of Killer Bee to their attempted theft of the Byakugan, and noting that Konoha remained magnanimous while Kumogakure were vindictive. While they didn't become allies, Konoha and Kumogakure seem to have come to cordial terms in the years passing. Konoha Crush. For years, Sunagakure suffered a series of budget cuts by the daimyo of the Land of Wind, weakening the village and thus rerouting ninja missions to Konoha. One day, Orochimaru, a missing nin from Konoha who founded Otogakure, approached the 4th Kazekage with the proposition of a joint invasion using the Chunin exams hosted in Konoha as a cover to attack. Orochimaru at some point murdered the Kazekage and assumed his identity on the day of the Chunin exam's final matches to make controlling Sunagakure easier. Orochimaru also planned for Kimimaro to take part in the invasion, but the latter was stricken with illness before the invasion. Kabuto mentioned had this not happened, the invasion of Konoha's end result would have been a lot worse for the village. The attack was meant to be fought on 2 fronts. Sunagakure's Jinchuriki Gaara would make it to the final rounds of the Chunin exams and release his tailed beast Shukaku from the center of the village. While Konoha was preoccupied with the One-Tail, Sunagakure and Otogakure forces would break through the walls surrounding the village. Orochimaru, having only one goal for the invasion, would fight and kill his old mentor and the current Hokage Hiruzen Sarutobi. Though Konoha never knew the explicit details of the invasion or who would be invading, it suspected an attack and had its forces prepare for the worst. When Gaara was injured by Sasuke Uchiha during the finals, he was left mentally unsuitable for fulfilling his role in the invasion. Orochimaru's subordinate, Kabuto Yakushi, instead cast the Temple of Nirvana technique on the stadium where the finals were being held, putting most present to sleep and signaling the start of the invasion. The Konoha ninja that were present and able to fend off the Genjutsu immediately engaged the Oto ninja that had earlier infiltrated the stadium. Gaara and his siblings fled the village with Sasuke and Shino Aburame in pursuit, while Orochimaru discards his guise as the Kazekage and has the Sound 4 erect a barrier so no one can interfere with this fight against Hiruzen. On Konoha's outskirts, Suna and Oto ninja, with the help of some of Orochimaru's snake summons, punched holes in the village's defenses, eliminated the border guards, and moved into the village. All combat-ready ninja sought out the invaders to give the citizens time to escape to the safe area behind the Hokage Rock. Having taken the villagers by surprise, the Suna and Oto were able to claim some early victories, in part benefited by the snakes rampaging through the village. As time went on and Konoha's more seasoned ninja came to the village's defense, the tide began to turn against the invaders. Jiraiya stepped in to stop Orochimaru's snakes and most of the Oto ninja at the stadium had been eliminated. Orochimaru, though having managed to bring about Hiruzen's death, had been badly injured by the loss of his arms. This forced him to hold off whatever plans intended to carry out with his master's death as the Sound 4 escort him to safety, with the remaining Otogakure ninja following suit. Realizing they have lost the fight with their allies abandoning them, the Sunagakure ninja retreat. Naruto Uzumaki, Sakura Haruno, Shikamaru Nara, and Pakun are later sent to follow Sasuke. While Asuma Sarutobi would later come to Shikamaru's rescue against a group of Oto-nin, Naruto and Sakura find Sasuke as Gaara beats him within an inch of his life upon using his powers as Shukaku's Jinchuriki before turning his attention to Naruto. However, unaware that Naruto was also a Jinchuriki until after he lost, Gaara underwent a change of perspective, as he and his siblings were allowed to leave the Land of Fire without any trouble. Konoha Crush, Aftermath. Having realized that something had happened to their Kazekage, Sunagakure scoured the Land of Wind looking for him. They found his body, and realizing that they had been manipulated into the invasion by Orochimaru, immediately informed Konoha of what had happened. They surrendered to Konoha and offered their apologies, which Konoha accepted. The two villages formed a peace treaty, and Tsunagakure, inclined to make amends, would thereafter come to Konoha's aid if ever there was need, which proved to be true when Sasuke left Konoha. Tsunagakure, despite the casualties they had received in the botched invasion, would benefit greatly from Konoha's influence, adopting Konoha's structure for an academy and in later years receiving help when their 5th Kazekage Gaara was kidnapped. Konoha, though victorious, had suffered heavy losses in the village's defense, chief among them being the loss of their Hokage Hiruzen Sarutobi. Fearing that other parties might prey on them in their weakened state, Konoha earnestly tried to find a new Hokage. At first, the counselors decided that Jiraiya would become the new Hokage. Jiraiya, however, refused the job on the grounds of being too irresponsible, and eventually persuaded his former teammate Tsunade to replace their mentor as the 5th Hokage, as she oversees the village's reconstruction effort. Until Konoha's forces could otherwise be replenished, the surviving ninja were forced to go on more missions than usual, and of higher ranks than they were accustomed. For a while, the village would be understaffed, to such an extent that when Sasuke Uchiha defected to Orochimaru, a team of genin with a new Chunin as the team leader, with some further assistance from Tsunagakure, was the best that could be sent to stop him. By the time that Konoha had stabilized somewhat, they were attacked again. Pain's assault. Pain had been instructed by his benefactor, Tobi, to capture Naruto. When Jiraiya infiltrated his village, Amagakure, Pain was forced to deal with him before he could go after Naruto. Although he was able to kill Jiraiya, Pain had permanently lost one of his 6 bodies and had to find a replacement before he could move on to Konoha. During the battle with Jiraiya, Fukasaku managed to escape the battle with knowledge about Pain. With the information gathered from Fukasaku, the body Jiraiya had defeated, a prisoner he had captured, and a coded message he had made before his death etched on the back of Fukasaku, Konoha had ample sources of information concerning Pain. While some of Konoha's forces dedicated their time to deciphering what Jiraiya had left to them, the rest of the villagers prepared for Pain's arrival. The defensive measures that had been erected since the last time the village was attacked were presumably built upon. Many of the Konoha ninja were kept home. However, Konoha still took part in its ninja mission business. Team Guy, Hiyashi, and Hanabi were away when the attack began. Naruto, knowing that Pain would be coming for him, decided to make use of the time Jiraiya had bought for him. He went to Mount Myoboku, home of the Toads, to learn Senjutsu for his inevitable encounter with Pain. Kosuke was left in Konoha to send word to Naruto when Pain eventually arrived. Pain and his partner Konan arrived on the outskirts of Konoha and eliminated all of the village's scouts. As the village was surrounded by a detection barrier, Pain's animal path was sent in the village alone to fool the barrier team, leading Konoha to believe there was only one invader. After infiltrating the village, the animal path summoned Konan and Pain's other 5 bodies to its location, where they dispersed. The animal path, the Asura path, and the Preta path acted as diversions. The animal path summoned a variety of creatures to draw Konoha's attention. The Asura path used its many weapons to wreak havoc and destroy several buildings of the village. The Preta path engaged whatever forces it came upon. Konan, the Diva path, the human path, and the Naraka path dedicated their efforts to finding Naruto. The human path read the villagers' minds. The Naraka path asked those he encountered what they knew and then used its abilities to see who was lying. Konan and the Diva path used the threat of death to find out what they wanted. In the initial phase of the attack, Konoha mobilized its forces, expecting only one intruder. Once it became apparent that there was more than one attacker, the village switched tactics, focusing in on the diversionary paths. The ordinary citizens and those who had been injured in the initial wave fled to the Konoha hospital. Sakura Haruno provided defense for the hospital and healed what injuries she could. Tsunade, the 5th Hokage, instructed Kosuke to call back Naruto. Danzo, having other plans, killed Kosuke to keep Naruto from returning. From the roof of the Hokage residence, Tsunade summoned Katsuyu. Tsunade then had Katsuyu divide, seek out, and adhere to every villager, so that she could tend to the entire village remotely. Kakashi Hatake, recognizing Pain's plan, engaged the Diva Path in battle. The Asura Path came to the Diva Path's defense. Although Kakashi was able to defeat the Asura Path, he could not defeat the Diva Path as well. He had Choji Akamichi, who he had fought beside, take knowledge of the Diva Path's abilities to Tsunade, while he bought time. While Choji informed Tsunade of what they had learned, Kakashi died from chakra loss from using the Mangekyo Sharingan to protect Choji from the Asura Path's missile. Across the village, Konan and Pain's remaining bodies began attracting the attention of Konoha's defenders. The animal and the Preta paths then switched objectives. The animal path assaulted the location where Jiraiya's prisoner was being held and tried to eliminate everyone at the location. The Preta path found and disposed of the body and its chakra receivers that Jiraiya had captured. The Diva path located and spoke with Tsunade, but became irritated by her words. When the human path captured Shizune, Pain was able to discover where Naruto was. The Diva path had Konan and the remaining paths evacuate while it used a large-scale Shinra Tensei to destroy the village and teach Tsunade true pain. In a brief moment between when the destruction began and when it was completed, Tsunade had the remaining Katsuyu copies shield the hospital. Tsunade also dedicated what was left of her chakra to keeping the villagers safe. In the wake of the destruction, all that remained of Konoha was a large crater, the Hokage Rock, and huge amounts of debris, ruins, and half-destroyed infrastructure. Shima, having been near Konoha, noticed something was wrong. In unison with the village's destruction, she summoned Naruto, Gamabunta, Gamaken, Gamahiro, Gamakichi, and Fukusaku to the village's center. When the dust cleared, Pain and his 6 bodies, the Asura path having been restored by the Naraka path, gathered to face Naruto. Before they fought, however, a weakened Tsunade angrily vowed to make Pain pay for destroying Konoha. When the Asura path attacked Tsunade, Naruto quickly defeated him in one blow. After discovering that Kakashi had been killed, Naruto instructed the rest of the villagers not to interfere with the fight, knowing that it would be hard to fight and protect them simultaneously. While the Diva Path's abilities were recovering from its massive attack, Naruto used his new Senjutsu techniques to defeat the other 5 bodies. Before he could begin fighting the Diva Path, its powers returned. He got rid of Naruto's Toad abilities and captured him, rendering him immobile with its black receivers. Defying Naruto's orders, Hinata Hyuga came to his aid and was struck down and appeared to have been killed, all after revealing her feelings for Naruto. Naruto, in a fit of rage, erupted into his 6-tailed transformation. With this transformation, Naruto gave in to the Nine-Tails' animal instincts in return for power, and liberated himself from the Diva Path's black receivers. After charging a tailed beast ball, Pain diverted Naruto's attack, causing another massive explosion to shake Konoha. Needing more chakra to face Naruto's new form, the Diva Path moved to a location closer to Konan and Nagato, Pain's true body. Naruto pursued him, finally giving the village a chance to regroup and tend to the wounded. After getting close enough to Nagato, the Diva Path performed Chibaku Tensei, nearly capturing Naruto in a large floating sphere of earth. This pushed him into the 8-tailed transformation, eventually breaking out of the trap. After delving into his mind and having the 9 tails resealed, Naruto exited the transformation and prepared to face the Diva Path again. Knowing that its abilities needed 5 seconds to recharge, Naruto used an elaborate array of backup plans to eventually defeat the final path with a Rasengan to the chest. After winning the battle, Naruto went to meet with Nagato. A skeptical Nagato berated Naruto for trying to stop his plans for peace, despite not even having an alternative plan. Upon hearing Nagato's story and realizing how hatred gave birth to pain, Naruto decided to have faith in their master's teachings and not kill Nagato. Nagato, believing that Naruto would be able to find peace, revived all the people killed during the invasion, sacrificing his own life to do so. Pain's assault. Aftermath. With the villagers revived by Nagato's technique, Konan, having lost the only person left she cared about, decided to leave the Akatsuki. She also promised that Amagakure would help Naruto achieve his and Nagato's vision of peace. Though their ninja force was revived, the village itself was left in ruin. How the neighboring countries reacted to this attack is unknown. After exerting all her chakra to defend the village, Tsunade was left in a comatose state. Naruto, on the other hand, was finally acknowledged as a hero overwhelmingly by the previously hostile villagers. This enlightening battle helped Naruto learn of some of his lineage. Along with the experience of loss Sasuke stated he knew nothing of, and would spur Naruto on to find peace. The Fire Daimyo and the rest of the village's governing body assembled, and Danzo was appointed by the Fire Daimyo as the acting 6th Hokage until a vote of confidence could be held. His first act as the acting leader was to have Sasuke Uchiha classified as a missing nin and marked for assassination. At this point, an envoy from Kumogakure arrived, with a request from the 4th Raikage for all information regarding Sasuke Uchiha. At virtually the same time, the courier bird arrived from Kumogakure with the invitation to the summit of the 5 Kage. 4th Shinobi World War. The 4th Shinobi World War was a conflict between the allied shinobi forces and Akatsuki. The battle began on the 8th of October and lasted until the 10th, with the complete victory of the allied shinobi forces, the collapse of Akatsuki, and the sealing of the Ten Tails. Its beginning was declared by Tobi when the 5 Kage and the leader of the Land of Iron unanimously refused to surrender the 8 and 9 Tails for his Eye on the Moon plan. He then stated that he would use the 7-tailed beasts already captured by Akatsuki in combating the ninja world. After this, the 5th Kazekage, the 5th Mizukage, the 4th Raikage, the 3rd Tsuchikage, and General Mifune agreed to form a shinobi alliance, pooling all of their resources against Tobi. Later, the daimyo of the 5 great shinobi countries approved the coalition and the 5th Hokage joined the alliance, while Kabuto Yakushi formed an alliance with Tobi. Both factions began by gathering their strength and collecting intelligence about the other side in preparation for the upcoming hostilities. Kisame gathered intelligence on Kumogakure's military strength and on Killer Bee while traveling with him everywhere hidden inside Samehada. Anko Mitarashi and her team tracks down Kabuto Yakushi, which led them to Tobi's headquarters. Other Shinobi Alliance teams have fanned out to collect other information about Akatsuki and their hideouts. At the start, Kabuto had formed an alliance with Tobi, demonstrating his use of his summoning impure world reincarnation technique and increasing the forces of Akatsuki with the reincarnation of deceased members of their organization. Most of the 5 Kage had also decided to hide the 2 remaining Jinchuriki, Naruto and Killer Bee, on an island in the Land of Lightning. Hiding Killer Bee in Naruto had the unintended result of allowing Naruto to learn to control the Nine Tails chakra, much like the way Killer Bee has with the Eight Tails. Having been successful in his training, Naruto has exhibited increased strength and speed while utilizing the controlled chakra of the Nine Tails, but lacks that same finesse that Killer Bee has exhibited in utilizing the Eight Tails, crashing into the wall and crushing rocks whenever he uses the Nine Tails chakra. Despite being captured in the end and committing suicide to keep the information he held secret, Kisame was able to finish Akatsuki's preparations for the war by sending a summoned shark with a scroll to his comrades, divulging the approximate location of the Turtle Island. With the battle between the two forces seeming to be on the horizon, Toby dispatched Kabuto to retrieve the Nine Tails and Eight Tails with the reincarnated Deidara, but was stopped by Onoki, Akatsuchi, and Kurotsuchi, who were going to reinforce the forces on Turtle Island. Kabuto escaped with Yamato, further adding to the intelligence sources that the Akatsuki has on the Shinobi Alliance and also strengthening the White Zetsu army clones with Yamato's powers. Both the allied Shinobi forces and Akatsuki have amassed considerable forces for the war. 80,000 Shinobi and Samurai make up the Alliance versus 100,000 Zetsu clones and reincarnated Shinobi supplied by Kabuto making up Tobi's army. Fourth Shinobi World War, they won. When Akatsuki starts mobilizing from the mountain's graveyard, Anko Mitarashi orders the rest of the infiltration and reconnaissance party to inform the rest of the allies while she continues to investigate. She is found and defeated by Kabuto Yakashi. Akatsuki's surprise attack and diversion platoon pursues and ultimately captures the remaining members of the reconnaissance party, but cannot stop them from getting word to the Alliance's HQ. The Alliance sends its surprise attack division to ambush Akatsuki's force in the Land of Hot Water. Akatsuki sends its surprise attack and diversion platoon to do the same. The two are drawn into conflict. The allies eventually emerge victorious. Sasori and Shin are released from the impure world reincarnation and Deidara is captured, and they're even able to rescue some of the captured members of the infiltration and reconnaissance party. Following the success of their first mission, part of the surprise attack division is sent to ambush another Akatsuki cell. They encounter a group consisting of Zabuza Momochi, Haku, Pakura, Gari, and though outnumbered, attack. When the attack fails, the third division is called in to assist. Akatsuki's forces, reinforced with reincarnated members of the 7 Ninja Swordsmen of the Mist, Zabuza and Haku are successfully sealed early on, but sealing of the others proves more challenging. By the second day of the war, 3 reincarnated shinobi remain, now bolstered by White Zetsu. The assistance of one of Naruto Uzumaki's shadow clones enables the 3rd division to deal with the remaining Akatsuki forces. When the war begins, the 2nd division is deployed to the border of the Land of Frost and the Land of Lightning. Approximately 20,000 White Zetsu are detected moving into the Land of Lightning underground, prompting Kitsuchi and Kurotsuchi to use Earth Release Opening Earth Rising Excavation to unearth them. In an opening salvo, the 2nd division is able to destroy scores of White Zetsu, but the battle quickly descends into one of attrition, tiring much of the 2nd division and allowing many White Zetsu to escape. Most of the 2nd division is sent in pursuit of these Zetsu by assisting the 1st division, leaving their remaining forces to face a new threat, White Zetsu that have infiltrated the Alliance. Members of the 2nd division are slowly eliminated by the Zetsu and left uncertain about who to trust until the 2nd day, when the arrival of one of Naruto Uzumaki's shadow clones allows them to root out the rest of the Zetsu. When the war begins, the 1st division is stationed along the northwestern coast of the Land of Lightning. They are soon confronted by the reincarnated shinobi and White Zetsu that escaped, the 2nd division's defense along the country's perimeter. The two sides engage each other, with division commander Darui facing off with the Gold and Silver brothers. Darui initially struggles with the brothers and their treasured tools of the Sage of Six Paths, but is eventually able to turn the tools against the brothers to capture Kinkaku in their own Benihisago. This enrages Kinkaku to the point that he enters a version 2 form which he uses to tear through the 1st division. After reinforcements from the 2nd, 4th, and 5th arrive and the Alliance HQ sends the Kohaku no Johei to the battlefield, Kinkaku is captured. With the Gold and Silver brothers dealt with, the allies turn their attention to the remaining reincarnated ninja. Asuma Sarutobi is defeated by his former students, Kakuzu and Hisashi Hyuga are sealed with the help of Choji Akamichi, Don Kato is trapped within a 4 Violet Flames formation. The remaining White Zetsu are seemingly defeated, leaving the allies victorious. While part of the surprise attack division is transporting the captured Deidara, they're met by a restaffed surprise attack and diversion platoon. The surprise attack division attempts to escape, but is paralyzed by Hanzo's summoned Ibuse. They are rescued by the samurai of the 5th division, with Mifune engaging and ultimately emerging victorious over Hanzo. Kimimaro and Chio prove more elusive, and it is not until the Impure World Resurrection is released on the 2nd day that they are defeated. Almost immediately after the 1st division and its backup defeats the last of Akatsuki's forces, Tobi appears in the battlefield and summons the demonic statue of the Outer Path. Despite the efforts of Kitsuchi, Choza, and Choji, the statue decimates the allied forces. While taking shelter from the statue's attacks, members of the 1st division begin to realize that the attack is just a distraction, while Tobi acquires the captured Gold and Silver brothers. They aren't able to stop him in time, and he escapes with the Benihisago and Kohaku no Johei. His mission accomplished, Toby de-summons the statue. In order to force the allies' cooperation, Black Zetsu is sent to capture the daimyo of the 5 great shinobi countries. He's found and stopped by the daimyo protection squad almost immediately after he arrives at the secret compound. Before he begins fighting, he senses Naruto Uzumaki's appearance on the battlefield and informs Toby of this development. The daimyo's capture ceases to matter, but Black Zetsu is instructed to keep the daimyo protection squad busy. One of Naruto's shadow clones arrives on the second day to help capture Black Zetsu. 4th Shinobi World War, Night 1. At the end of the first day of battle, both the Alliance and Akatsuki received massive casualties, having effectively halved both their battle forces. The 80,000 strong allied shinobi forces were brought down to 40,000, and the 100,000 strong White Zetsu army was brought down to 50,000, on top of the several already sealed reincarnated shinobi. During the day of fighting, members of the White Zetsu army infiltrated the Alliance's ranks. Once night falls, the disguised Zetsu begin methodically eliminating key allied personnel all across the battlefield. The Alliance is thrown into disarray until Sakura Haruno is able to determine what's happening. Despite this, there are no effective countermeasures against the Zetsu, and vigilance is unable to prevent additional deaths. Suspicion reigns over the allies. 4th Shinobi World War, Day 2. Early in the night, Naruto and Killer Bee escape their confinement in the Land of Lightning. Although the 4th Raikage and 5th Hokage are sent to intercept them and place them under guard again, Naruto, Bee, and later Tsunade are able to convince the Raikage to allow him and Bee to fight. Naruto and Bee's contributions immediately prove invaluable. They encounter a platoon of allied shinobi heading towards HQ, which Naruto recognizes as disguised Zetsu. Naruto and Bee defeat them all, and Naruto sends his shadow clones to various battlefields to lend whatever assistance they can. As Naruto and Bee continue outbound from the Land of Lightning, they're able to save Musai and Nonota from reincarnated Toroi. The 4th Division encounters the reincarnated Mu on the first day of hostilities. Akatsuki responds by sending the 2nd Mizukage, the 3rd Raikage, and the 4th Kazekage to reinforce Mu. The Alliance likewise sends Onoki to assist the 4th Division. Despite this, the 4th Division avoids conflict until the 2nd day, when other divisions, their own battles won, can be called in for help. Gaara launches the first attack, which in turn is countered by the 4th Kazekage's Gold Dust. Onoki engages Mu, and elements of the 1st Division attack the Raikage and Mizukage from the rear. The 4th Kazekage is captured and sealed while protecting the Raikage and Mizukage, but the remaining Kage are more elusive. The Raikage is largely impervious to damage, the Mizukage and his summoned clan cannot be located in their mirage, and Onoki is unable to overpower Mu. When Naruto's shadow clone arrives, it takes Mu by surprise, and in the ensuing confusion, Mu is sealed before he can respond. Naruto next focuses on the 3rd Raikage, whose defenses are impenetrable and whose attacks are unstoppable. When his and the Alliance's combined efforts can do nothing against the Raikage, Naruto maneuvers the Raikage against himself, using his own attacks to break his own defenses and creating an opening to seal him. Meanwhile, Gaara and Onoki face off with the Mizukage. They're able to destroy the Mizukage's clan, but struggle with his steaming danger tyranny. Gaara is ultimately able to sneak some of the 4th Kazekage's remaining gold dust into the Mizukage's technique, neutralizing it and allowing the Mizukage to be sealed. Kabuto Yakashi decides to temporarily kill Naruto and Killer Bee in order to deal with them in the short term and make it easier to use them against Toby in the long term. To that end, he sends the reincarnated Nagato and Itachi Uchiha after them. While Nagato attacks them with different summons, Itachi activates the Kodo Amatsukami he planted on Naruto before his death, releasing him from Kabuto's control and allowing him to assist with defeating Nagato. Though his body was frail, Nagato is able to regain his mobility by absorbing Bee's version 2 chakra. Although this revitalized Nagato is nearly able to remove Naruto's soul, he is overpowered by the 3 and sealed by Itachi Susanoo. When he was attacked by Naruto's shadow clone earlier, Mu's body instinctively split in 2, only one of which was sealed. The second half cannot release the first half, so Kabuto uses the only option he has left. He uses Mu as a medium to summon a reincarnated Madara Uchiha. Kabuto encourages Madara to show what made him so legendary, which Madara obliges by attacking the nearby 4th Division. Gaara, Onoki, Naruto's shadow clone, and the rest of the allies present are already outmatched by Madara, which is only made worse when Madara drops 2 meteorites upon them, wiping out most of the 4th Division. Madara attacks the survivors with Wood Release secret technique, Nativity of a World of Trees, which Naruto does his best to defend against. Naruto's shadow clone is beginning to run low on chakra and cannot hold out much longer against Madara. The 3 remaining Kage, Ei, Tsunade, and Meitarumi arrive in the battlefield to join Gaara and Onoki against Madara, instructing Naruto to trust them to fight him. Naruto's clone vanishes, remnants of the 4th Division pursue Mu's half, and the Kage engage Madara. Although the Kage pull off some attacks that impress even Madara, they cannot hope to defeat him so long as he is an immortal reincarnation that recovers from all his injuries. All they can hope to do is endure against his various powers until Kabuto is defeated and the impure world reincarnation is broken. As night starts to fall, the Kage cannot last much longer, Madara having multiple clones that are each using Susanoo to outnumber them 5-1. Before he can wage a final attack, Madara is engulfed in light and his soul begins to ascend, Kabuto having elsewhere been defeated. Madara releases himself from the influence of the impure world reincarnation, granting him an immortal body. Free to do what he wants, Madara decides to go find Naruto. The Kage try to stop him, but each is brought to the verge of death in an unseen battle, and Madara escapes. Toby uses the reincarnated bodies of the former Jinchuriki to create his own 6 paths of pain, each with their old-tailed beasts sealed back into them. They converge on Killer B and the real Naruto and engage them in battle. After a brief exchange, B is able to restrain and nearly seal all 6, but they free themselves by entering version 2 forms. In the chaos created by these stronger opponents, Toby almost captures Naruto, but he's stopped by the arrival of Kakashi Hatake and Might Guy. Toby begins to have some of the Jinchuriki enter tailed beast mode to overwhelm the allied Shinobi. The 4 Tails goes after and swallows Naruto, which gives its Jinchuriki Roshi a chance to communicate to Naruto how to release them from Toby's control. Naruto escapes from the 4 Tails' mouth and locates the chakra receiver on its body. By removing it, he frees Roshi and the 4 Tails, to which Toby responds by first reclaiming the 4 Tails, and then by having all the other Jinchuriki fully transform. The 9 Tails is touched by Naruto's determination to help its fellow tailed beasts, and thus gives its full cooperation to him. Their new and improved 9 Tails chakra mode allows them to defeat and free the other tailed beasts, but Toby reclaims them into the demonic statue of the Outer Path. Toby fights Naruto, B, Kakashi, and Guy by himself until he's alerted of Kabuto's defeat. Running out of options, he initiates a premature revival of the 10 Tails by depositing the sealed Gold and Silver brothers, who contain remnants of the 9 Tails chakra, and one of the 8 Tails tentacles into the statue. He places a barrier around it as it undergoes its transformation and engages his 4 opponents in the meantime. Their efforts to attack Toby fail until they notice a connection between his ability to become intangible and Kakashi's Kamui. By taking advantage of this connection, they're able to land a successful attack and finally destroy his mask, revealing him as Obito Uchiha. Moments after his identity is exposed, Obito is joined by Madara, having just finished up with the 5 Kage. Noticing that the statue has not had the 8 or 9 Tails sealed into it yet, Madara attempts to take the beasts from Naruto and B before the 10 Tails is revived. Kakashi and Guy defend them while Naruto and B try to destroy the statue, but they are too late and the 10 Tails is revived. After freeing himself from Kabuto's control, Itachi tasks himself with breaking the impure world reincarnation. He traces Kabuto to the mountain's graveyard. Along the way, Itachi is found and joined by his younger brother, Sasuke. They locate Kabuto, but know they cannot kill him if the impure world reincarnation is to be released. After taking precautions to protect himself from their genjutsu, Kabuto takes advantage of their unwillingness to kill him by bombarding them with all the abilities he acquired for himself. The pilfered abilities of the late Sound 4, the research of Orochimaru, and a sage mode he's trained to perfection. The Uchiha brothers defend themselves, helped particularly by the Susanoo. Ultimately, Itachi traps Kabuto in the endless loop of the Izanami. Defeated, Kabuto is compelled via genjutsu to release the impure world reincarnation, sending Itachi and the other reincarnated shinobi back to the afterlife. 4th Shinobi World War, Night 2. Though the 10 Tails is restored, it will still be some time before the moon is in a position to complete the Eye of the Moon plan. Madara and Obito therefore opt to eliminate the opposition in the meantime. They take control of the 10 Tails and try to use it to destroy Naruto, B, Kakashi, and Guy, but the remaining allied shinobi forces arrive in time to stop the attack. They combine their efforts to restrain and bind the 10 Tails, but the victory is brief. The 10 Tails transforms and frees itself. Madara and Obito recognize the coordination involved to bring such a huge force together so effectively, and use the 10 Tails to destroy the Allied HQ to prevent future coordinating. Almost all stationed there are killed, Ao being the only survivor, but Shikaku Nara is able to communicate one final attack plan to the allies. Many ninja die as they move into position, including Neji Hyuga, but they're able to pull off Shikaku's final plan, and sever the connection between the 10 Tails and the Uchihas. Freed, the 10 Tails prepares to use Tenbenchi. Kakashi attempts to send the beast away, but Obito intercepts him and warps them both to the other dimension. Tenpenchi levels the area, but none are killed due to the protective cloak Naruto coats everyone with. Before the 10 Tails can launch another attack, it is stopped by the arrived Hokage, reincarnated by Orochimaru at the direction of Sasuke. Hashirama Senju restrains the 10 Tails, and he and the other Hokage trap it in a barrier. Though it can't move, the 10 Tails spawns miniature clones of itself to protect it. The allies fight the copies, but it becomes apparent that the 10 Tails is on the verge of a final transformation. Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura join forces against it, badly damaging it. Meanwhile, in the other dimension, Kakashi and Obito spar. Being old comrades, Obito tries to convince Kakashi that his actions are right, and that the world as it is must be eliminated. Kakashi refuses to agree and badly wounds Obito, forcing him to retreat back to the real world. When Madara senses Obito's return, Madara tries to take advantage of him in his weakened state to force Obito to restore him to life. Obito resists and instead seals the Ten Tails into his body, becoming its Jinchuriki. The Hokage, no longer preoccupied with restraining the Ten Tails, attack it, only to discover Obito's new power cancels out the regenerative advantages of their reincarnated bodies. The allies try various methods of damaging Obito, but only Senjutsu has any kind of success. With the moon nearly in position, Obito transforms into the Ten Tails' final form, a giant tree capable of absorbing chakra from anyone it touches. With their numbers dwindling and time running out, the allies prepare for one final assault. Naruto and Sasuke launch a final attack while the remaining allies, rallied by their respective newly rejuvenated Kage, provide support. The tailed beasts, which compose the Ten Tails, are stripped from Obito and released, leaving him defeated and unable to move. Because Obito is no longer able to resist, Black Zetsu takes control of him and forces him to revive Madara. Though living again, Madara is left unable to see, having forfeited his eyes shortly before his original death. Until he can reacquire them, he immobilizes Hashirama and absorbs his Senjutsu chakra to allow him to sense things around him. His first order of business is capturing the tailed beasts again. He is initially no match for the 9 beasts until a white Zetsu delivers one of his Rinnegan to him. He uses it to summon the demonic statue of the Outer Path from Obito's body and then quickly seals all the tailed beasts, including B's 8 tails and Naruto's 9 tails, into it, triggering another rebirth of the 10 tails. Sasuke tries to stop him, so Madara stabs at him with his own sword. Meanwhile, Tobi keeps the allied shinobi forces occupied with Sage Art Wood Release, true several thousand hands to battle them. Naruto, dying from the removal of the 9 tails, is delivered to the reincarnated Minato Namikaze by Gaara, so that the half of the 9 tails chakra that Minato has can be sealed into him. Black Zetsu intercepts the transfer and takes the 9 tails chakra for itself, but this creates an opening for Obito to reclaim control of his body. Obito, having finally decided he was wrong, escapes to the other dimension with Naruto and Sakura, who's providing emergency life support, where he begins sealing the 9 tails chakra from Black Zetsu to Naruto. Elsewhere, a dying Sasuke is approached by Kabuto, who also had a change of heart, and he begins healing Sasuke's wounds. Madara, now the 10 tails Jinchuriki, is left to deal with the stragglers. With nobody else who can perform Senjutsu around, Taijutsu is the only means of combating him. Might Guy decides that this is a worthy cause for him and decides to give his life to defeat Madara. He opens all 8 gates and assaults Madara with his Evening Elephant. This takes a heavy toll in his body, but doesn't stop Madara, forcing him to resort to his final attack, Night Guy. This time Madara is badly injured, but he still survives. Spent, the life fades from Guy. While on the border between life and death, Naruto and Sasuke each meet with the Sage of 6 Paths, who offers them a portion of his power to defeat the 10 tails at long last. Once each is restored to health, Naruto saves Guy from death and they engage Madara with their new powers. Sasuke's Rinnegan and Naruto's simultaneous access to all of the 9-tailed beast's abilities. No match for Naruto and Sasuke, Madara becomes determined to reacquire his remaining Rinnegan. He steals Kakashi's Sharingan and uses it to follow Obito to the other dimension, where he takes the Rinnegan Obito had been using. Restored to full power, Madara returns to the real world and initiates the Infinite Tsukiyomi. The Infinite Tsukiyomi is cast upon the world. Sasuke shields himself, Naruto, Kakashi, and Sakura. All others, except for the reincarnated Hokage, are trapped in a dream and wrapped into the god nativity of a world of trees, their chakra acting as fuel for their own confinement. The 4 emerge from Sasuke's protection, the last resistance against Madara. Before they can have their final battle, Black Zetsu, once more in control of Obito's body, transfers to Madara and takes control of him instead, converting him to Kaguya Otsutsuki. Kaguya transports them all to one of her dimensions, wishing to eliminate the only remaining obstacles. Like Madara before her, Kaguya has difficulty fighting Naruto and Sasuke at the same time. At Black Zetsu's suggestion, Kaguya sends Sasuke to a different dimension so that she can fight them individually, starting with Naruto. While Naruto keeps her busy, Sakura helps Obito, who is now back in control of his body, find the dimension where Sasuke is and reunite him with Naruto. Frustrated by Sasuke's return and her own failure to kill Naruto, Kaguya transports them all to a dimension with powerful gravity. While Naruto and Sasuke are unable to move, she attacks them with all-killing ash bones. Obito and Kakashi use themselves as human shields to block the attacks, with Obito also using Kamui to save Kakashi as well, though at the cost of his own life. Even though he's dead, Obito is not done fighting. His spirit rises from his remains and inhabits Kakashi, temporarily granting him the power of dual Mangekyo Sharingan. Using Susanoo, Kakashi joins Naruto and Sasuke in their fight against Kaguya, creating an opening for Naruto and Sasuke to surround her and strike. When she tries to escape, Sakura punches her, forcing her to stay put long enough for Naruto and Sasuke to initiate the seal given to them by Hagoromo Otsutsuki, the sage of the Six Paths. The tailed beasts are removed from Kaguya's body, she is made to spit out Madara, and she and Black Zetsu are trapped in the Six Paths Chibaku Tensei that is itself stuck in another dimension. The battle won, Team 7 wonders how to escape Kaguya's dimension. Hagoromo anticipates their need, combining the efforts of the 4 reincarnated Hokage and the spirits of all the other deceased Kage to summon them, the tailed beasts, and Madara back into the real world. Hagoromo congratulates them on their victory, and Madara, before dying from the Ten Tails extraction, acknowledges his own defeat. With the 4th Shinobi World War finally over, Hagoromo returns the 4 reincarnated Hokage and all the spirits of the other deceased Kage to the Pure Land. 4th Shinobi World War, Aftermath. Following the dissolution of Akatsuki and the sealing of Kaguya, Hagoromo explains that Naruto and Sasuke need only join hands to end the infinite Tsukiyomi, but Sasuke has other plans first. He imprisons the tailed beasts, intending to kill them and the current Kage so that he can become the sole authority, personally deciding good from bad so that the world never gets itself involved in another war. Naruto refuses to go along with this, and the two battled at the Valley of the End, fighting into the night. When the two regain consciousness the following morning, Sasuke admits defeat to Naruto, besting him, and surrenders. Together they end the infinite Tsukiyomi. Sasuke releases the tailed beasts, and the few remaining Zetsu fade away. The combined influences of Naruto and Kakashi, who had been named Konoha's 6th Hokage, was enough to absolve Sasuke's status as an international criminal. In the years following, the allied shinobi forces would reorganize into the Shinobi Union, a body that is composed of any hidden village that wishes to join, with the purpose of preserving peace among the villages. By the time Naruto had become the 7th Hokage, relations between the villages eased considerably, with all of the Kage being on good terms, allowing them to discuss common interests and deal with mutual threats without prejudice. With no need for weapons or militarization, technology had advanced in such a short amount of time that Konohagakure would sport a modern metropolis above the Hokage monument. However, the sudden decrease in militarization was not welcome for certain shinobi who depended on it for their incomes. Hidari and Ashimaru lost their careers as shinobi after the war, and had to become mercenaries to take on more illegal missions directly. Kido Sumiki found the new era of peace a threat to the Anbu's budget, and proceeded to cause minor security disturbances to ensure their funding would not be decreased. A group of Kirigakure shinobi found peace to be insulting to its reputation and sought to revive the village's history as the Bloody Mist. Did you enjoy our video? Be sure to check out these other great videos from the Amagi, and make sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.